In this video, we're going to learn how to build your .NET MAUI app for Windows using GitHub Actions. In a previous video, we've seen how to build your .NET MAUI Android app using GitHub Actions. So if you haven't seen that video, I would highly recommend that you check it out. The link is down below or should be popping up on your screen right now, because there I explain a little bit about what GitHub Actions is, what it can do for you exactly. I'm going to skip over that for now for a little bit. So I'm just going to jump into Visual Studio, my screen share, and I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing, building your .NET MAUI Windows app on GitHub Actions. So this time not for Android, but for Windows. Let's go check it out. Now, typically we would start in Visual Studio and write all of our code here. Now with GitHub Actions, you totally have tools to help you write that locally as well. Maybe a more logical choice would be to do it in VS Code, but here I just want to show you this file new .NET MAUI application. This is the sample that I'm using to actually build the app. But the app doesn't really matter that much. As long as it builds locally, you should be able to make it work and build on GitHub Actions as well. So this is just a little sample app. I'm going to close this right now, and I'm going to go over to a browser window where I have loaded the GitHub repository that has all the code for this app. So I already did the Android video. All the code for that is right in here. And if you want to look at GitHub Actions for a repository, you can either go to this .github folder here in the repository and you will see the workflows, or you can go to this Actions tab here at the top, and that will kind of like bring you to the same thing but with a different view. And here you can see all the workflows. Now for Android, you can see each commit that I did triggered a new build. They're all completed, so kind of like my CI is going pretty nicely. And also you can see here, if I go to this one, update README, you can see that I have the artifacts here, so I can download the artifacts for each build. We're going to see all of that for Windows right now. So here you can see all workflows, and I'm just going to create a new one. You can also incorporate building your Windows app inside of the existing workflow if that's what you want, totally fine. But I'm going to create a separate one for here. So let's do that, and it's going to suggest me again this, again, I'm saying again, assuming that you watch the Android video, it's going to suggest me this .NET action because it sees all the .NET and C# code in here, so it knows kind of like where we're going. Let's click configure, and then we have this like template setup. Now here, name, so what did I name the other one actually? Let me go back here to this tab, build .NET MAUI app CI. Okay, that doesn't tell me much about Android, but let's call this build .NET MAUI Windows. Let's just call it like that. Now here we have a couple of triggers like on push for the main branch, on whenever a pull request happens for the main branch. I'm sure that you can figure that out from the GitHub Actions yourself. And here we're going to see the actual build, right? The job. So we can have this build runs on Ubuntu. I don't think that's going to work for Windows, so let's make this Windows latest. You have all these different images for the hosted build agents that you can request depending on what you need. We're going to use Windows latest. Then what we're going to do is check out. So it's going to check out our code, setup.net, which is just a pre-built GitHub action step that you can here see on the right, get from the marketplace. You can search for it. So this is actions/setup.net, which is an action. If I would look for setup.net right here, then it should come up. Well, this is not the right one actually. Setup.net. There we go. So this is a verified one by Actions, and Actions is an account from GitHub. And this is how you specify the parameters. So right now it's going to install .NET version 5. We need 6 because .NET MAUI lives in .NET 6. Then it's going to restore the dependencies, build, and test. Now, you should test, definitely do that, but I'm going to skip that for now. And also the restore, I'm not going to do that. It's going to do that automatically for us. What we do need to do here in between is install the .NET MAUI workload, because that's not something that's installed by default. So let me quickly copy the command for that. Well, actually, it's not that hard of a command, but let me copy it here anyway because I'm a lazy developer. So what I did is say, hey, this is going to be the name that's popping up in our logs. And then you can just say run. And here you can have this command line argument that's just going to be executed on this agent. So here it's going to do .NET workload install MAUI, and it's going to install MAUI for us. Now, the other thing, and actually we could keep this video very, very short, is to just build our project. So again, I'm going to paste in a little bit here at the bottom, and you can see, well, this is .NET publish, so let's make .NET build, and then I need to specify like the folder, because this is looked at from like the root of our repository, right? So if I go back to the code right here, we have this MAUI GitHub Action sample, this is a folder, and then we have the MAUI GitHub Action sample.csproj. So we need to put that path in there, going through all the steps, right? So we have this folder, the csproj. Then you can say -c, which is the configuration it needs to build. I'm going to do a release build, and then I'm going to do -f and have to specify the target framework that I want to run on. And this has to match, again, let's go back to the code here. This has to match whatever is in your target frameworks for your csproj, right? So make sure that whatever you input there has a valid counterpart here as well. So this is going to be this one, right? NET 6.0, Windows 10, etc., so that it can find that. Now with this, we just do a .NET build and do whatever. So whenever I commit this, I'm just going to commit this directly, commit new file. It's going to, oh, this already exists. So because this is the default name, .NET Windows, let's call it like that, doesn't really matter. And commit new file. So it's going to create this new file. Here you can see it. We now have two files, and these are going to be two workflows. Whenever I go to the actions pane right here, you can see that my Android one is going to build as well. You can see that starts building, which is not really that useful right now for now, but you know, it's always nice to know that stuff still works. And I now have this build .NET MAUI Windows, and that one is running as well. So if we go into that, I'm not going to wait together with you and watch the whole output go here. But you can see that it runs through all these steps, and it's going to build our Windows application right here, actually. So now whenever you do a commit on the repository, you have this CI, this continuous integration for your .NET MAUI Windows app set up as well, and you know that everything will be all right. Now, if you just want the continuous integration, if you just want to know if your app still builds whenever you're committing new stuff, this is totally fine. This is also going to run whenever you do a PR. It's going to pull down that code and build all the things together with that. But maybe you want to get a publishable version of your app through this as well. So then we're going to have to do all the stuff with signing certificates, signing the binary. I have a nice video on that as well, which should pop up on your screen right now, or the link is down below, which has a more extensive explanation of all that I'm about to show you right here. So be prepared that this could go a little bit quickly. After this video, watch the other video and it will become more clear probably. But right now, I'm going to show you how to actually create a self-signed certificate and use that to sign your application, get that application, the binaries as artifacts that you can download from your GitHub build, and then you can distribute it to other people if that's what you want. Let's go check out how to do that. Okay, so back here on our machine, you can see that the build actually completed. So this is how easy it is to get your .NET MAUI Windows application to build automatically. Now let's move on to the hard stuff. So like I mentioned, we have this docs page to publish a .NET MAUI app for Windows. So there is a lot of documentation. There is a video I did on this already, so go check that out. I'm going to skip over like what is going to be, you know, the parts that you actually need. So we're going to need a self-signed certificate, at least if you want to distribute it through like, you know, not the store. If you want to distribute it through the store, you don't need to actually sign the application. But that is, go watch the other video. I'm still explaining all things. So we need to do a self-signed certificate because what I want to show you is that you are going to create an MSIX file that you can download from the artifacts of the GitHub action and send to someone else to actually install. Now, there is a great explanation here, but there is a link here for more information, which links to another docs page. And I want to go here because this has an extra step that we actually need. So determine the subject of your package app. I will get to that, and create a new self-signed certificate. So we need to kind of like copy this one, which is a long command. And I'm going to input that here in this terminal. But what we want to make sure is that I'm going to pull up Visual Studio here and then go to Platforms, Windows, and then go into this package AppX manifest. I'm going to open that with the Source Explorer, the Source Code Explorer. Where is it? Our text editor, XML text editor, because what you want to make sure is that this identity, this publisher, that this information matches whatever you're going to input in that command. So we have this CN is username. That's what is going to be in there, because else the signing won't go through. So let's go back to our terminal window, and I need to go back all the way to the beginning mostly. And you can see here that dash subject we have CN, and here it says Contoso Software, and it has O, and it says something about the corporation. We don't need all that. We can just do username. Now, again, this can be anything as long as it matches kind of like whatever is in your AppX manifest and whatever you're going to input here. And you can give it a friendly name, which doesn't really matter as well. So your friendly name goes here. I'm just going to keep it like that, but you can make that whatever you want. So just execute this command, and this is going to create a certificate and add that to your local certificate store on Windows, basically. So here you are. The thumbprint is something that we need to note, so make sure to copy that somewhere. But what we need to do extra, now it's inside of our store, right, which is something within Windows, but I need an actual file that we can add to our GitHub Actions. Now, the extra step for that is if we scroll down, export a certificate. So first, let's do this first line from the command line, because we want to put a password on this as well. We don't want to have that certificate float out there in the wild without a password, and anyone can just use it and maybe mimic your application. So that's not something that we want. So this line, this is a little bit of PowerShell. This is going to create this variable password, and it's going to convert it to a secure string. So here you can just do any password. I'm going to make this PFX password just so we know what it's all about. You probably want to create a stronger password here. All the rest can just stay in place. So I'm going to execute that, and then I need the second line. It's going to export this little thing, and I need to replace a couple of things here as well. So let's input that. You can see here that we need that certificate thumbprint, so it knows which certificate to actually export. So we need it for this, but we also need it later on for our GitHub action, this thumbprint actually. So let's replace this one, put it in here, and then we're going to specify a file path where to save that actual PFX file. So let's go here, and I'm just going to say cert.pfx, that's it. And this password is going to be used from the password variable that we specified in the previous line. So execute this, and now you can see we have this cert.pfx. So we got that in place. Now, there is one thing which is a little bit of a problem, is that we cannot really use files in our GitHub Actions besides, uploading them as part of your repository, which is probably not something that you want to do. So what we do have, we've seen that in a previous video about Android. Again, go check that out. In our settings of our repository, we have these secrets right here on the left, and we have these secrets for GitHub Actions. Now you can see all the ones in place for Android right here, and we're going to create new ones, but this can only be like a name and a value, which is a text value. So we're going to make our PFX file something that is text, and we can decode and encode and do all that kind of things, because files you can encrypt as base 64, right? So we can put that base 64 in here. Now you should only do this for small files, because base 64, it's just going to be, the amount of megabytes that you put in here. So I think there's a limit of the value that you can store in here. So you want to keep them as small as possible. But for these little certificate things, it should be all right. Now you can do this on Windows with a command which is called certutil, and I can just say certutil, which is actually, you can use that for certificates and do all kinds of things. And I'm going to say encode, and you can just say that cert.pfx, and I need to specify where I'm going to save it. So let's make that cert.pfx.asc, can be anything you want, and it completed successfully. So now we have two files, and I can do this cat, which prints out like the contents of a file, and I can say cert.pfx.asc, and you can see that this is now an encoded kind of like base 64 thing. So I can just copy this thing and copy it here and paste it here in my secrets for GitHub. And I have to come up with a name. So let's name this Windows PFX file. And now we got that one. So we can use that later on. Now, what you also want to do is create a secret for the password that we just specified, right? We need that also to decrypt the file again. So, or to actually, use the certificate. So let's say Windows PFX password. We're going to use that as well, which was PFX password. And if you want to be really, really secure about all of this, what you probably also want to do is put that thumbprint inside of a secret. It's not really a secret, but just it's better safe than sorry, basically. So we're going to say Windows PFX thumbprint. thumbprint. And let me see if I can pull that out here. Whoops, need to scroll up a little bit. There we are. So let's get that thumbprint. We need that, and now we have everything in place here in our secrets, and we can start working on implementing that on our build. So let's go back here to the actions and to the Windows one, and I can here say, actually view workflow file, and I can edit it here, right? So there's multiple ways to get here also through the repository, but I got here. That's the most important part. So now we are going to have to extend our little workflow here a little bit, because what we now also want to do is decrypt that PFX file. So let me copy something here from off screen. It doesn't really matter where you do that as long as it's like before you're actually going to build the application, right? And because this is all YAML, we need to get the indentation right. So here we are. You can see I have this name decrypt PFX file, and then we have run. So we are going to run a command line thing, right? And with this pipe sign after the run, you can then do this line break and have multi-line commands basically. So now it's going to execute all this one by one. And now I'm going to do echo, which is also prints it out. Echo, and I'm going to use this secrets variable. So this is the way to refer to a variable in GitHub Actions. And I'm going to say Windows PFX file, which is the one I just created. And with this angle bracket, I'm going to put that in a cert.pfx.asc file. So it's going to put the context in there. Then the cert util we've seen just now, which is available on Windows, and we're running on this Windows latest image, we can do decode, and we can say cert.pfx.asc, and we're going to decode that back to cert.pfx. So now we got our pfx file back in place, and now we can use that. Well, almost. We still need to add that to the certificate store because somehow, I don't know why, you can't really specify the PFX file for the build for Windows. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but this is the way that I needed to do to make it work. Luckily, it's just a one-liner, so you know, no worries there. But what we're going to do here is add another step, and this adds the certificate to the store of that local Windows machine. So the host agent, because that is going to be, created the environment, and then after you're done using it, it's going to destroy the environment. So we need to do this over and over again, right? So we need to add the certificate to the store. Actually, I don't need this pipe sign right here. I could just do this right here because it's just one line. And I can say cert util dash user, which is going to add it to the user store. It's going to do it quietly because we don't want to have any interaction, right? It's just going in an automated pipeline. And we have to specify the password right here. And I want to import that PFX, which is this cert.pfx. And this no root here at the end specifies that we do not want to import it to like the root node of the certificate store. Like this is a little bit complicated. You need to know a little bit about how those search stores and whatnot work. But this no root is very important because if you do not specify it, it will pop up a dialog that the user has to kind of like accept. But it can't because this is running in an environment where there is no user input. So then your action will be stuck waiting forever until it times out. So you really need this no root after here. Then it's going to import the certificate in a place where you can use it to sign your application. And then we can extend this .NET build action. And actually the first thing you want to do is make it .NET publish, because else there will be no MSIX artifact created. It will just build the DLL, it will just build the application and be done with it. But we actually want to have the build artifacts that you can redistribute. So let's put that in there. And the rest that you want to do now is specify a couple of MS build properties, basically. So let me paste some things in here. And this with the /p and then the colon, you can specify things in your MS build property. So if we go back to the docs page right here and scroll a little bit down, you can see the same things right here as well. You can specify them in your csproj if that's what you want. You can do that as well, or you can specify them in the command line whenever you trigger a build. I'm going to show you that right now. You can mix and match also. So, you know, the generate appx package on build, that's something that's static. You just want to have that in there, depending on if you're building for Windows and the configuration is released, so you can put that in there. But that thumbprint is going to be something that might be different, right? So that's something that you maybe want to provide through the command line. So you can mix and match. You can put one value in the csproj, you can put the other value in the command line, doesn't really matter. But this is how that works. So here you can see again that generate appx package on build, true, appx package signing enabled is true, and then here we're going to have to specify that thumbprint. So we have to specify here another variable. So it's kind of hard to see because it's right here at the end of the line. Maybe let me add some spaces right here. And I'm going to say secrets dot, and what did I make of this? Now I need to go back to my settings and check the actual name here. Secrets, actions, and Windows PFX thumbprint. So that's the one. That's what I want to use. Secrets dot Windows PFX thumbprint. Paste that in here. And now it's going to use that thumbprint. And that's it. Now we have everything here. So this is going to actually sign our application. Now, the last thing you want to do is get those artifacts, upload them back to GitHub. So there's a step for that as well. If you go look here for artifacts, you can find it. You can see how to use it. Get back here. So upload a build artifact, and that means like it's running on this hosted build agent and it's uploading it back to GitHub so that you can actually access it from the Actions portal right here. It has, of course, a retention because it's not going to save it indefinitely for you, but you can influence that. I think it's a maximum of 90 days or something, so it should be good. So let me add that here as well and paste that. And what we're going to do with this is like we give it a name, upload build artifacts, uses this action. This is how you specify a pre-built action that you want to use. And then with, so here we're going to specify the parameters, the path, and you can do all things with wildcards here. So it's going to go through like the subfolders. That's what the double stars mean until it finds a folder app packages. And then inside of that, it will again do double star. So it will take all the subfolders and then the star.star and all the files that come with that. So you can also make this star.msix if you really only want the MSIX file, but I think you want to have all of those because there's a couple of other files that are really handy to have as well whenever you're going to distribute it that way. Now this is all that you need, and we can start a commit again. I'm just going to commit this directly to the main branch, and then it's going to run this actual build again, and we should see at the end that we have a signed and distributable binary that you can now use and send to others. So that's how that works. That is really, really cool. So it's always fun that kind of like the basics, just getting your application built with the CI, and maybe that's the most important to use, and that's very easy to do. If you want to do like a really distributable and the app action thing, then that's always a little bit harder. But for this one and for Android, it's still kind of okay. The really fun, where the fun begins is going to be with iOS and macOS. So be on the lookout for those videos, but I hope this was very helpful to you as well. Now, if you want to know more about publishing and archiving your app, go check out this playlist right here where I have assembled all the videos. If you want to know about .NET MAUI as a whole, check out this playlist, and please click this button to check if you're subscribed already, and I'll see you for the next video.